welcome back, everyone. Well, marketing seems fairly easy and simple when you're just starting out, and as you scale, it becomes difficult to manage and excel at it too. And that's why businesses hire marketing agencies to save time, to save money, and a lot of headache. But it's really crucial that you find an agency that matches and understands your vision, your mission, and your goals, and the fact that they should be professional and honest people to work with. And to talk about all this, we have another amazing panel of marketing and soft leaders. Allow me to call on the stage the moderator for this panel, Amit Sharma, the head of the marketing automation practice at Grazidi. Now, Amit is a highly accomplished operations leader, adept in delivering cutting-edge technical services and solutions. Currently, he is spearheading the marketing automation team with his leadership and EQ skills and a passion to drive business goals. His impeccable knowledge and expertise in business processes, consulting, product development, customer relationship management, and employee engagement make him an indispensable asset for our organization. So here's Amit with our next panel discussion, the right marketing agency, your ally for marketing success. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you so much, Akanksha. Marketing seems like a fairly easy job when you're just starting out, but as business scales, so much of struggle is there to manage marketing and advertising while running day-to-day operations. And moreover, the new age marketing that we are in, so understanding of a wide variety of channels which many business owners or in-house marketers may not have the time or experience to manage optimally. And because of this, outsourcing marketing work to an agency is a popular option. Now, the main reason that business owners hire agencies is because they want to save time, money, and headache. But to actually drive these benefits, there are several critical things to consider before you take a leap and hire a marketing agency, and most importantly, the right agency. So we are excited to dive more into this with our incredible panelists, some of the best marketing leaders in the business. Allow me to introduce them. Our first panelist is Don McGreevy, Director of Marketing at Core Science. Having worked in several industries, Don is a seasoned leader who builds strategies and collaborates with sales to drive strong results and accompanying revenue, of course. So glad to join us, Don.
Thanks, Amit. Glad to be here.
And I would also like to welcome our second panelist, which is David Frank, Senior Email Marketing Manager at Siegel Scientific. David is globally trained and internationally acclaimed marketer with over a decade in brand strategy and planning, executing, and optimizing multi-channel marketing campaigns. Thank you for being with us today, David.
Thank you so much for having me.
And finally, we have Gurpreet Singh with us, who's a marketing manager at Grazidi and holds over 8 years of experience in full-stack marketing, developing and executing integrated marketing and communication campaigns. Thank you for joining us, Gurpreet.
Thanks, Amit. Great to be part of this panel.
Sure. So Gurpreet, I would like to, approach you in terms of, while making a decision to select the right marketing agency, when there are businesses are always asked to define their goals, their objectives. And while trying to find the right marketing agency, most businesses don't go beyond the pricing actually. So what goals do you think are the objectives, businesses should define and document while doing their homework to choose the right marketing agency?
Thanks, Amit. I resonate with your thought. Most companies do not go beyond pricing while evaluating marketing agency. While this may work for few, but it doesn't work for most. Organizations must do a complete study or homework before they seek an agency. And this could be done in the line of listing the critical elements that are hindering your overall success and for what you're looking out for an agency and prioritizing them. The second would be the level of expertise of your existing team and what your team can do to support your partner agency. Evaluating your current marketing strategy and identifying the gaps for what you need that agency for. The most important that I believe is to differentiate between the element, the must-have and the good-to-have elements in a marketing agency, right? With my past experience, Amit, I've learned that it's not always the glorious agency that would suit somebody's need. Sometimes the second best or the third best alternative lead to better synergies. So we have to do that homework to understand why do we need a marketing agency.
Great, wonderful. So according to you, I think defining and documenting goals are really, really important.
Yeah.
So Don, once we actually define and document our goals, what according to you is the next step? I mean, what should be in terms of these goals can help us to choose the right marketing agency?
Sure. I think I think to follow along, the first thing is sort of understanding where you are with your internal resources and how where you are in your company evolution. So oftentimes, if you're a startup, you may outsource to go for speed and you're looking for certain things to drive revenue. If you're more established, you might have different goals and objectives in a different agency. And I think as you're looking for an agency partner, one of the critical decisions is understanding what you need them for. And also, are you going to go one-stop shop or look for kind of best in breed agencies based on what your objectives are? And so to me, the one-stop shop is a little bit of a dying breed unless you have a huge budget. And so dialing in, for example, if you're looking for a digital marketing expert in B2B, your choice in an agency might be very different than if you're looking for, brand level video production for B2C. And so really understanding that and being able to ask the right questions when you go to interview agencies to understand where their expertise lies. The other piece is your setup of your organization going to be mainly fully outsourced? Are you going to try to bring some inside? Sort of what are your internal resources that you have that can support it? Just because you hire an agency doesn't mean they do all the work. You have to set them up with what your goals and objectives are. You have to have the briefs, the positioning. There's a lot of work that goes into arming an agency to be successful depending on where you are. And that is really in your hands to get organized on that, to be able to really make the agency successful. You have to have kind of your house in order to engage with an agency successfully. And then the other piece is really if you're really focused on digital or you're focused on something else, really honing in on the types of techniques and the type of work that they've done in the past to dial in on that. And then I think the other piece is pricing. So there's a lot of agencies want to be on a retainer, and there's menu pricing. There's different pricing formats that you can use with agencies, and really understanding blended rates, how your pricing works, and what the SOW or scope of work looks like to be able to make sure it aligns with the way you're used to working. For me, a good example of that is oftentimes with an agency, you get a scope of work back and it might have one round of revisions. In my experience, that's almost never the case. You almost always need two, but you want to prevent three because then it starts getting really expensive. And so understanding the way your team works and making sure that when you're scoping and pricing that you're comparing apples to apples is an important piece in addition to the skill set.
Well said. I think that covers a lot of things in terms of making documentation, defining goals, creating SOPs. So this covers all the what factors and how factors. So let's also focus on what not to do factors. Then I think, David, according to you, what do you think are the potential red flags that organizations should stay on guard for while looking for a perfect marketing agency?
Well, there's an adage that a painter's house is never painted and the mechanic's car is always in the shop. That doesn't fly here. So does the agency practice what they preach? Any marketer who can't market themselves is not worth their salt as a marketer. So how's their website? Is it professional? Are they using those marketing skills effectively? What's their social media like? Are they updating it regularly, but are they making effective use of hashtags, or do they know their audience? Like, is it meeting a high level of expectations there? And I do get that it's difficult for someone who doesn't have the skills to be able to identify what's good and what's not, but there's always some sort of level that we can look at something and judge it. How's their SEO? Now, SEO is a really good example of something which is harder to assess if you don't have the skills in it. So you might actually ask someone that who knows a little bit or a lot about SEO and go, look, thinking of using this agency. Do they look good? Are there any red flags there in their SEO? And what's their online reputation like? Are people talking about them good or bad? Do they have partnerships and certifications? So if you have a platform that you mention to them that you're using, do they smile and nod and say, oh yes, we can do that? Or do they have the certification to back it up? Do they have the stamp on their website, or can they tell you directly, oh yes, we've got this staff member who has this certification? So if they don't, if they go, oh yeah, we can do that. Look, I just renovated my kitchen. I had someone who smiled and nodded and said, yeah, I can do that flooring for you. And they undercut the competition. And then they got these two pieces and they were asking me how they fit together. So that was a red flag. I should have picked it up at the time. So that comes down to like, are they over-promising? A really good example in marketing is SEO. An honest SEO person is going to be honest about it being the long game. A deceptive one is going to promise you massive sales in a short amount of time based on SEO alone. And I hear discussions about just this on the marketing subreddit every now and then. And then finally, red flags. You can't talk about red flags without talking about that personal element. Did they come over like a used car salesman? Were they too good a salesperson? Did that raise any red flags? I've got stories from when I went car hunting. Many people do. Or were they just difficult to get in touch with? Did you feel comfortable if you have a long-term relationship with them, they're going to be good for you? Those are my red flags.
Wow. That's really, really wonderful. I mean, I think you've covered most of the delight factors. So, defining goals, documenting goals, identifying red flags. And apart from that, marketing entities come in different shapes and sizes. So some may focus heavily on creativity and always, bringing the new and the cool to the table, while some may follow the traditional and conventional methodologies that have stood the test of the time and are known to work, no matter the state of the economy, work models, or other factors. But the big question over here is, what kind of marketing agencies should companies be looking to partner with? How can companies categorize them? Don, would you like to
Sure. Yeah, I will add one more red flag just to add to that is this is a people business, right? You're hiring people for their brains and their skills. And so I do really think that your connection with the people is a factor, right? These are people you're going to work with every day. Do I get a good feeling from them? This is totally subjective, but it does end up being important for a good working relationship as you go along. And that's a little just about your gut. Did I like the people? Does it feel good when I talk to them versus the other people I'm evaluating? I think is a subjective point, but important. So when I'm evaluating agencies, I'm thinking about what type of work we need to get done. Whether I almost rarely go full shop, just because in general I look for best of breed for what I'm doing in terms of the tactical and the executional. I think the other piece is understanding how you want to set up internally with your own resources and what type of talent you have on your team. Often you go outside to an agency to increase throughput, get strategic expertise you don't have, and dial in on some stuff you might not have on your team. And so I think that the assessment of who you are you a 2-person team and you're mainly going to outsource, or are you a 10-person team and you're using the agency to handle certain aspects of what you're doing, is an important decision factor for what type of agency you would work with. And I, inevitably, in the beginning, you almost always outsource, and then you evolve to kind of a mixed model, and understanding where you're going in the long term and kind of picking a partner that can, do very strategic and executional, and then maybe moves more into executional when there's less strategic work to be done. And so that's really about understanding where you are as a business and kind of looking at different firms that meet that particular business need that you have at that time.
Mm-hmm. So, after establishing all the importance of the goals, the red flag, and categorizing different buckets, types of marketing agencies, David, do you think there is any kind of a standard checklist, which can help to choose the right marketing agency, just be kind of a match made in heaven?
A match made in heaven. Well, I firmly believe that any marketer or marketing agency should be able to learn practically any industry, but an ideal match made in heaven would involve someone who has experience in your sector and in the countries that you're operating in. As a global marketer, I've blogged about examples of times when that's gone wrong, where they don't know the colloquialisms, the local language in an area, or things like that. As for finding a marketing agency that's right for you, find one that has staff that do what you need. And Dawn touched on this earlier. Do you need SEO? Yeah, many people can do it. But if they have a specialized person who does that all day, every day, I can tell you now, SEO people are worth their weight in gold. That is a part of marketing which is moving very rapidly all the time. And someone who works just specializing in SEO, for example, that's a green flag. Do you need a lot of writing? Backstage before we started, Dawn and I were talking about how worth worthwhile dedicated writers are? And does the agency have that on staff, as an example? As well, Dawn mentioned commercial terms, different types, monthly retainer per project, per hour cost. What's right for what you're looking for? And I might just finish off on, and going back to what I mentioned earlier, building their credibility. Will they help you build your credibility because they've demonstrated that they can build their own? Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you so much. So, I think we all know that different enterprises run a different culture. So, Gurpreet, do you think that there's any importance of the marketing agency being a good cultural fit for any kind of business?
Oh, I think it is. Today, I believe every team is looking for a partner that is culturally fit, right? As you stated and as David stated, a match made in heaven in the cultural fit segment also is rare to find, but with time, I believe it eases out. But as the underlying question that you asked, what is the importance of having a cultural fit agency, right? If you go today in the digital space, there are plenty of content that you can read in, right? But few 4 or 5 pointers that just come top of my mind is employee engagement. I believe when the agency and the org client that we are working with are in tune, they are more productive. And I believe poor culture or cultural fit leads to productive drain, both in the company side or in the agency side. Second would be cohesion. A team that works together with the same core value functions better than a team with disjointed priorities. And the last one that I think is the communication. The integrated collaboration, working process, and open communication comes with a cultural fit agency or a cultural fit company. So those are the few things that come top of my mind. And I believe it is really important to have a cultural fit agency in with you when you're working together.
Great. I really like your thought of cohesiveness. I think, that can be a really potential element for making any of the marketing agency as a cultural fit for any of the businesses. Cohesiveness, I think that's really, really important. That's essential. Apart from all these, tips which you have provided to us, to the audiences, are there any other pro tips that you would like to share with our audience? Dawn, David, and Gurpreet, any of the thoughts, any pro tips you have?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So oftentimes, you might have a list of people that are your go-tos. You've worked with them before, but oftentimes you're presented with a work set or an idea that is something that you don't have a go-to resource for. And so I think one of the tips that I find is getting engaged with marketing communities, whether it's in your local city or via LinkedIn or within your industry vertical, to find recommendations. So, the example to me is I hadn't done an explainer video in several years with a vendor that worked really well, cost effectively. I reached out on, a community board that I'm in. I had 3 recommendations within like an hour, and it kind of cut down on the searching part and came kind of through personal referral. And so I think that's really important because, the agency is only as good as their work. And, everyone always lists, oh, I work for all these great companies, but, the personal referral to someone, hey, I use them, they're great, do this, has a lot more credibility. And so the ability to kind of leverage your network and get involved there can be a way to start and at least get your consideration set down to a more manageable one to research. I've found good success doing that and cutting down the amount of time it takes me to find someone.
All right. David, do you also have any parting thoughts?
I do. I mentioned credibility. Building credibility. Find someone who establishes themselves as a thought leader. And that goes for anything, really, but especially in the marketing space. Here at Seagull Scientific, we do labeling. And so we're always putting out articles, white papers, webinars, blogs, etc. It demonstrates skills to everyone and, how good you are. And I've got a couple stories if we have a minute. I recognize we're probably over time, but look, this is good advice for anyone looking for work to establish yourself as a thought leader, or at least demonstrate your skills. I once missed out on a marketing gig because I didn't have a very big social media presence, and the interviewer gave me that feedback, to which of course I said I do that for my clients, my personal Instagram, I don't do a lot. Now I know we live in an era where everyone and their dog has an Instagram and a TikTok, and I did create a LinkedIn for my dog, but I did actually create a proper Instagram for my food garden, and you can follow that at Seattle Food Garden. That's Instagram, Seattle Food Garden. Seriously though, I have another friend. He's a marketer. He missed out on a chief marketing officer gig because the person he was competing against had a marketing blog. Me and him co-founded goodbadmarketing.com. So go out there and find someone who does things like this webinar, for example. I myself do lots of speaking gigs on panels. I do my own solo talks about marketing. I chose the company to clean my fireplace recently because they had some really interesting and informative articles about the process of cleaning fireplaces. So it goes for people, it goes for businesses, it goes for agencies, whether you're trying to put yourself forward or you're trying to find someone. And at the very intro, Ankasha said, agencies help you save money and save time, but they also bring in expertise that you may not have as well. Thank you.
Really, really thoughtful. I'm sure our audience must have, enjoyed all these insights. I'm really thankful to all the panelists, and over to you, Akanksha.
Someone's asking me to show them my dog.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much, everyone. That was amazing. And like you said, when it comes to choosing a marketing agency, only you can make the right decision for your business. And the best marketing agency, I feel, is an extension of your team, right? With thousands and tens of thousands of agencies to choose from, only you can make the right decision. So thank you, Don, David, Gurpreet, and Amit for giving us the right tips and tactics to get that right. You're wonderful. And now, you're welcome. And now to soak in all of these incredible insights, let's take a quick coffee break. We'll keep the hybrid marketing conversation going in 5 minutes, and I'll see you in our next keynote titled Loyalty, Commerce, and the New Consumer. See ya.